Roblox. Yeah, all of you have probably played at some point, either messing around with your friends or exploring alone. But we have all failed to see the true machine that works behind the scenes to make these games work and even make millions. When making this video, Roblox is valued at over $40 billion, making it one of the most valuable gaming companies of all time. Not to mention that it maintains a player base of over 100 million unique players every single day. So how the heck does a gaming company that doesn't even make games become one of the biggest gaming companies of all time? To find this, we have to go back to the beginning. Released back in 2006, the beginning of Roblox was really different. The game on the platform of this time were hobby projects, created with no form of monetization, just created to, well, create. And this was good for Roblox because they are able to spend their time on the platform and engine, making a good free experience. And to mention that, all their developer tools are free, letting anyone who has an inspiration for a game and a knack for learning able to create a Roblox game. And by 2010, the player base had grown from its humble beginnings in 2006 to 100,000 daily users. But then came 2013, the introduction of DevX, letting Roblox developers make real money from their games, clothing, and more. How it works is confusing, but I'll do my best to explain. In order to turn your Robux into real money, you need to have first made 30,000 of it from a game, clothes, and more. But then the cuts begin. First, there's a flat 30% cut off the top just for the act of transferring the Robux across accounts. But the real cut happens when the developer wants to get their money from the Robux. Just trying to exchange their Robux. Roblox only gives the developer around a third of the actual purchase price of Robux, a 66% cut. So cumulatively, it's a 76% cut. More importantly, other dev apps like Unity are also free and are only a paid subscription if you make money. But a downside of Unity is that it makes you have to juggle giving your game to your players and also advertising them. And this basically means using Steam, which is another additional 30% cut.
So these expenses all do subtract from how much Roblox makes from your games and how much you would make without using Roblox. But to me, the main problem this created tracks way further back, going into how developers monetize their games and current monetization culture around their games to begin with. Going back to the pandemic and even before, a type of simulated gambling began to be heavily implemented into games. It began first with slots, and then to crates, and then last of all to skins, all trying to maximize retention and take more and more Robux from their players. Looking back to past games, this strategy became prominent due to the success of many developers, mainly from the massive games of the time such as Pet Simulator X. Speaking of Pet Simulator X, it was released in July of 2021, developed by the Big Game Studio, and its success was massive. At the beginning of 2022, it was considered the biggest game on the platform, and one major thing they created was therefore monetization. To explain, Pet Simulator X monetizes its games through its own version of crates that are their pet eggs, which work by when you purchase it, it gives you a random pet from a set pool, which the rarest is always the best. Using this tactic, they are able to profit millions of dollars from children trying to get the best pets. This style of monetization took over the platform, with many developers following the trend. And this led to something much bigger, causing the platform to be engulfed by thousands of games, all with a similar core gambling aspect. Though the role of Big Game Studio is not over. Going back to Big Game's success of Pet Simulator X, it caused many copies to be created trying to follow its formula, in hopes of making millions of dollars a year. This problem really started because of the limited amount of tools in place to stop people from copying ideas, and from the legal difference of intellectual property and game mechanics, as legally you cannot copyright a game mechanic like running from a tsunami or clicking to get bigger, but you can only copyright your game's assets, like your music, models, and logos. Because of this, copycats can legally steal the idea of a game by just using different assets. Take for instance the current success of the brain rot genre. All these games are a simple idea for sure, but that's not the problem. It's seen the direct insanity of the amount of them that are created when someone finds a good idea. At this rate, there's going to be literal thousands of brain rot games, all directly the bare minimum, inspired by a preceding copy. Sure, the players do play them, and that isn't a bad thing at face value, but almost all of them have devolved into a type of cash grab, going back to the root problem of just creating a game for the money. Now, looking back at the monetization seen in Pet Simulator X and its copies, many of these games use gacha mechanics, which are chance-based reward systems which you risk your money for new better items, along with extreme pay-to-win scaling. These games aren't even made in the first place to have a player base. They're just designed to extract the max amount of Robux from impulsive younger players before the game will inevitably die out. Roblox's algorithm also doesn't help with the problem we face, as it often prioritizes games with high immediate monetization and engagement, creating a spiraling cycle of these copycats burying the original creative indie games under a mountain of hyper-monetized clones. While the amount of copycats is a large challenge for developers, the real problem lies in the children playing them. These games' gacha mechanics are built upon manipulative design choices specifically engineered to exploit people, and have an even greater effect on a child's young mind. This genre heavily relies on rapid-fire, low-effort rewards, replacing substance with noises, flashing lights, and colors because of their laughing depth, while also heavily relying on artificial scarcity to just increase the chance of purchase. These games will often overstimulate young minds, conditioning them to lose patience with traditional slower-paced games that require skill or critical thinking. Another roadblock is general financial understanding, and that people, let alone young children, often have trouble understanding value, especially when concerned with probability. Even though you can work out the math of your success or have it directly listed, these values are often just not understood, leading to illogical decisions. Also, with the built-in mask of money behind Roblox, the platform itself has obscured the true value of their money. Games have further obscured the true cost of their spending by adding a middleman currency of gems or coins purchased with Robux and then used to buy in-game items, altogether creating another roadblock for, especially children, to misunderstand that they're spending their parents' hard-earned money. They just see a shortcut to winning. Another large problem is that when these gacha mechanics, like the past seen randomized egg hatching, spinning wheels, or mystery crates, become embedded into these games' progression loops, it is essentially functioning as a simulated casino, exposing 6 and 7-year-olds to the near miss from a young age, normalizing gambling behaviors long before they're even old enough to understand the risks. This all funnels to the crux that as of now we are witnessing a change in paid gaming to microtransaction environments, transitioning away from paid initial fees to crates or rewards that you can purchase along your way. And given that $4.3 billion has been paid out to developers since the release of Pet Simulator X, meaning that developers have at this point profited literal billions, how much do you think would have come from this form of gambling? So how can we even fix this? The first problem to me is the prevalence of just bad games, games that were solely created to make money. And sure, a game can make money, or even have to make money, but when starting to create a game, if your question is how can I make the most money, the main chance is that it's not going to be valuable for anyone. I mean, think of movies, TV shows, and books. They're all usually created with a purpose, and a motif of source of which they can give their value. So at its root, the problem is that many developers are focusing on the value they can gain rather than value they can give. The second problem is how developers continue to monetize their games, continuing with the methods of monetization of crates and wheels. Heck, you can even look to the successes of Grow a Garden, see that it's not necessary to add these crates and gambling mechanics to make a large game. These games succeeded in creating a game in which gacha mechanics are only minorly prominent and not their main source of income. So maybe there isn't a direct fix for this, but to me, the further increase in good games can hopefully increase competition so that this type of copycat games and gacha mechanics are pushed out.